Hello everyone and welcome to Thursday Live Lesson. My name is Aldrine Guerrero, joined by our special guest, Mr. Magic Mike Odo. What's up, Magic Mike?
What's up, guys?
And as usual, we have Mr. Kahai, the legend, Fergit. What's up, Kahai?
What's up?
There's no air in the voice today, but we do have Magic Mike, so that's just as good, if not better. If not better. But we have Magic Mike here, so that means we can take on any and all of your questions, especially when it comes to music theory and kind of music in general. We have our resident music expert here, so we're going to be answering some questions. That's how this works. Thursday Live Lesson works like this. You guys ask us questions, we will answer them as best as we can. If not, we'll just kind of talk about ukulele or anything in general. We get questions any which way. We get them via email, via the website, via UU Plus forums, or just kind of see us on the side of the road kind of thing. Just ask us whatever questions you want. We'll answer them in this question, in this show. So we'll try to answer them to our best abilities. At least I will, and then these two guys will chime in, and then we'll come up with a super answer for you. We are also live, so make sure you take advantage of the live chat and ask us any questions while we're live, and we'll answer those as well. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to give a warning. What would you say?
A warning is a good.
So a little warning. We remember a while back there was what episode? What was that episode called?
Well, there was the plate lunch episode.
The plate lunch episode. So this is plate lunch episode part 2, basically.
Is it?
Because there's no Aaron in that episode, I think, right? Was it Aaron in that episode?
No, but then there's what was it called? It was the Meatball Sub episode.
Yeah,
Sub
that's what it
the
was.
first
That's
one.
what it was. Okay,
And
so
plate lunch episode.
this is kind of like the Meatball Sub episodes. We'll dub this the Loco Moco episode because Aaron's gone, and I'm like, okay, cool. I usually buy Mike lunch. That's like his pay for being here. Cool on the ground is that, buddy. So we give him some lunch and stuff. And today's lunch, I went to Roland's in Lihui. So shout out to Roland's and got their Loco Moco. And their Loco Moco I think it's intended for 2 people to eat. It's a lot. It's a humongous patty. It's like a half-pound patty.
It's a half-pound patty.
And like 2 eggs. 2
8
crispy
scoops of rice. I don't know how much rice it is.
2 crispy pork bellies.
2 pieces of crispy
there.
pork belly.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy Mike one, so I might as well buy Kahai one. So, which I don't know if that was a good or bad thing because he's in control. If the control guy is sleepy behind the controls.
So if the camera starts tilting to one side or nothing, it's probably
the
that.
sound starts going off and stuff.
Well, they're not gonna know because it's either us just kind of doing
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
or it's Kahai with the camera doing that.
So the 3 of us are incapacitated with Loco Mocos in our stomach, and it's seriously like a 2-person Loco Moco that we just all destroyed. So. Yeah. Just a warning, to all of you folks. It might get a little sleepy in here.
So usually,
and it's hot.
It's hot.
For people who don't know, a Loco Moco is like a bowl of rice, with a patty, and then
a hamburger patty. Hamburger patty, yeah.
A fried egg, and then gravy over the whole thing, and you kind of like cut into the patty and the egg, and the fried egg spills out its yolk, and you mix it all together.
It's America, baby. That's exactly what it is. It's so American.
But it's supposed to be like a bowl, right?
Yeah,
like a bowl of rice.
Yeah.
This one was a plate. It's like the size of my face.
Like that styrofoam plate, big styrofoam plate of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was filled. I said there's not even anything. Usually it comes with salad or something on the side.
No, not fooling around at Roland's. No,
straight up.
Yeah. So if you guys ever are on Kauai, Roland's. And what's the kicker too with this is like Kahai said, there's no salad, and instead of regular rice, they give you garlic fried rice.
Yeah.
So it's like garlic fried rice with egg, with meat, with more meat, because they give you 2 crispy pork bellies on top of it.
It's like a flourish on top, right? We wanted to put something delicate on top.
Yeah,
that's what the green onions are.
Yeah, there's scallions.
The three chopped green onions on the top. That's your salad.
It's so good. So this episode might get a little sleepy, but you know what? When the cat's away,
and it's hot.
The mouse are gonna go.
I'm just gonna
play.
say that again. It is now June in Hawaii, and
so it's
if you've never been here,
it's 80s out there, 90s.
It's
maybe?
80 degrees. And I guess
70-80%
humidity.
Yeah, it's the humidity that's gonna kill you. Really,
I'm sweating now.
Yeah.
I'm sweating now.
You're listening.
I'm
I'm sweating for different reasons.
Yeah. For those of you who watched the episode a couple episodes or a while back now. Yeah. Aldrine ate all of his with the last dab. So he's sweating for multiple reasons.
It's so I want my own bottle. My own bottle last time. So I'm going to go buy some after the show.
You should probably buy 2 because one to give back to Aaron that you've eaten all of his.
All right, so let's get started. We have questions, right, Kai?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go. Go for it, buddy.
Do you want to start with the one that we got a video sent?
Yeah, so we got a video sent over to us. Do you remember his name?
James.
James sent over a video, and he was watching Ukulele 102 week number 3, and he's having a hard time with these exercises where he plays a C chord, but then kind of plays the 7th fret with your pinky finger. So that is a bit of a stretch. So if you're having a hard time doing this, don't worry about it. Don't feel like, oh, am I supposed to be able to do this? Not everyone will right off the bat. So you're doing great by just at least attempting. I saw that you were really trying. You're getting those stretches, like nice and easy. So here's just a little bit of advice that I can give you to make that better. There's really no shortcut around it. It's just, and that's why it's it's an exercise to kind of get your pinky and the rest of your fingers really, really stretched out. So my first advice, if you want to keep it there, I have my pointer finger kind of stationary like this, but my middle and ring finger, watch that kind of move over to the right like this, and it gives me more space and more room to kind of hit my pinky finger on the 7th fret. And my pinky finger is kind of in this sideways, and if we were to kind of look at it from this angle right here, it's kind of hitting it to the side. Not touching the fret wire still, so clearing that off so it comes off nice and clean. Right? But it is at a weird kind of angle. So some of you folks are trying to hit it kind of straight like this, which is fine if you can hit it like that. But for myself, I like to kind of bend my finger, and it kind of works that way. My middle and ring finger are kind of leaning forward to get that stretch in, but this is still like a pretty hard stretch. It's not an easy chord. Another advice that I can give you is you can practice it in a different key. So what I would do is I would kind of raise this, so maybe do it on the 8th fret. So you're still playing the same chord shape, which you would do here, but play this, and then hit the 12th fret. So it's the same thing where you're hitting 2, 4, 4 frets up, just like this, 2, 4, but then get kind of reducing the gap just a little bit. And the third, my third advice is, if you really want to take it here, practice doing it on the 5th fret first. So I'll do, and then hit the, maybe hit the 6th fret, then hit the 7th fret. So you're just kind of easing your way up there. So there's really no trick in like how to kind of hold it down here so you can get a little bit better. It's just a matter of stretching. Because for myself, that's still kind of a bit of a stretch. Okay, so when you're practicing, you don't want to overdo it and hurt your pinky finger. So don't do that. Make sure you kind of ease into it. Go do the 5th fret first, and 6th fret, then 7th fret, or you can take it up here in the 8th fret, and you can also kind of adjust how you're holding it like this. Because if you keep it all together, it's even further for your pinky. See, like my fingers want to naturally separate, and that's how I get that. Okay, so try your best, and we would love to hear back from you. Give us an update in maybe like a week to see what is looking like, and in a week, if you're still having a hard time, maybe we can give you something else to kind of do in the meantime. Also, maybe another thing that I just thought of just now is if you can actually let go of your ring finger and see if you can get that stretch, because the stretch comes from your ring finger hitting that top string and your pinky finger on the bottom string. So that's where the stretch is coming from. But if you just get rid of that ring finger for now and then add it in later, just so that you can get a feel for that pinky finger down on the 7th fret, you can do that as well. Yeah. All right. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, from a physiological standpoint, one thing to remember is what tendons and what muscles are connected to each other. Yeah. So one of the ones that makes it difficult is these 2 fingers. Mm-hmm. These 2 are actually connected. So so it's one of those things that if you immobilize one of them, the other one's gonna have a really hard time moving.
Mm-hmm. You wanna say what fingers exactly? Oh, just for people who are just listening.
So yeah, sorry. So out of all the fingers on your hand, your middle finger and your ring finger are actually connected with the same tendon. So if you lock up one of them, the other one basically doesn't move very well. Now, there are certain people who've developed things. Oftentimes, like string players in their fretting hand will have stretched that out a bit.
Yeah.
That becomes a lot easier. Okay? Piano players, because of how they have to be independent, they tend to be able to have the stretch. But really, for a lot of people, there's an old fun one where if you put your two fingers together like this, go like this.
Oh, whoa. Watch which finger you're showing.
I am. So it is your ring finger. So basically, I'm putting the knuckles of all my fingers except my ring fingers together. I'm sticking my ring fingers out and putting the tips of them together. And all you got to do is just separate them.
What do you mean? Oh.
Make them come apart.
Yeah. Okay, go do it.
I'm trying right now. And
do it. No, for real. Like, do it for real.
See? And it's really that hard. So one of the things
Let's try that, Kai. You want to try that with me?
I was going to say...
No, keep your hand together. There you go.
I got it.
The top knuckles got to stay together, though. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, those two.
Now just make them go like this.
Oh,
see, your knuckles are still coming apart.
Yeah, it's impossible.
So now keep in mind, you're looking at three people who play string instruments. Yeah. And at least in our fretting hand, definitely has a lot of flexibility. And it's still pretty much impossible for us, too. So what's probably happening is, as you locking these two fingers down, it's actually creating a bit of tension in your hand, which is actually locking down your pinky. As well. You know, it's kind of like if you get a cramp in your cramp in your calf, your foot kind of locks up too. Same thing. So if both of these are cramped up because you're doing it, there's probably a good reason why your pinky is having a hard time stretching out that far, because the core of your hand over here is kind of locked up and tight. So what he was saying about taking the third finger off would help a lot, because then that actually loosens up the core of your hand and would give your pinky a lot more flexibility to move. And then you can slowly start to put that third finger back in. But it's probably a good idea simply because you're going to do the movements before your hand gets locked in to that position.
Also, disclaimer, don't try to separate this if you can't. So yeah, don't okay, so if you're going to try it out maybe for like a couple seconds. If you can't do it, don't force
don't flex it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to look at this. Now I'm doing the same thing with my two front fingers, my first finger, and that's super easy, baby. But if you do the middle finger, same thing. I'm showing it for the front, so they can't. It really doesn't. It really kind of pixelation. But you notice even that I can't really do it, or this one. But even with my pinkies,
you can, right? Yeah.
Right. Because it's really the ring and the middle finger on your hand that are locked together.
We also have some exercises done by Chris Salvador to kind of help you separate these fingers as well, which is the rock-on inner piece kind of stuff. We also have a stretch, which is the spider, which I don't know if we have on the website at all. Do we have that on the site?
I think that's part of 102. I think.
Oh yeah, okay. So in 102 we have the spider, and that should kind of help you, which is like kind of doing pointer, middle, and ring and pinky, and then doing pointer and pinky and middle and ring, and doing pointer and ring and then middle and pinky to kind of help you, kind of separate those as well. So make sure you check that out.
Reiterating what he said too, it's a slow process. Don't rush.
Yeah, don't rush it.
You know, you have all the as the James Bonds. You have all the time in the world.
Yeah, I think
that's an old James Bond song though. So
I told him too. I think the other part that's hard about that particular chord and stretch is the holding the E and A string too while you're trying to stretch your ring finger and then stretch your pinky out. Right?
Yeah.
So I told him, try it. You might want to try just barring the entire third fret instead of doing that. Yeah. Because that kind of relieves the tension on your pointer finger, and it should kind of release it to make it easier for the three fingers at least.
Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah. That could work too. You could kind of try that out. Just bar the third fret like this.
Something I noticed too. He said that he has small hands, so it's kind of hard. But
it looked okay. I was watching that video. It wasn't that bad.
And it almost seemed to me like he was trying to squish his pinky in too much. So I think maybe his thumb on the bottom is too low, and he has too much pinky. So he might want to try and just
that makes sense. Kind of bring this wrist back
Yeah.
Because you don't want your wrist jutting out like this.
Yeah.
Like in any chord that I play, actually, I don't really like jut out my wrist that much. The wrist is always kind of relaxed back here. So regardless what chord I'm playing, unless I'm playing one of these like a Benny Chong chord, and then maybe my wrist will kind of go out that way.
But even that, you can you move your entire arm. You don't want your wrist to be bent at this angle. Yeah.
Yeah. So be careful. That's all.
I think a good correlation to that to kind of bring up is when you are having physical difficulty getting to a note or putting a chord shape or something like that. Sometimes it's not your fingers.
Yeah.
I realize that some of you are thinking, but what do you mean it's not my fingers? My fingers is what I'm putting down. But really what I'm saying by that is sometimes it's the alignment of your elbow, the alignment of your shoulder, where your back is, the angle of the ukulele. Sometimes all those things are what's actually going to allow you to hit the chord well, as opposed to not. And whereas some people, you're like looking at it and you're just thinking about your fingers. So if you're having trouble with some of that, after you've tried to see if it's a finger thing, move on a little bit. See, well, maybe is it my wrist? Is it where my wrist is? It was my elbow, my arm. Yeah. If you look at all those things, you might find that the solution is just further up your arm, and it makes things way easier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those are all like great advice and great answers from our point of view. Anyway. Try that out. Like I said, do it for like a week, and then send us another video so we can kind of keep tabs of your progress. Okay, and we'll touch up with you then. All right. Next question.
So this one is we got one from Dimitra, I think.
Dimitra.
And they asked about slash chords and what are slash chords, and if you could explain it a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Bassman. I think this is your
because I'd be the one who
that would be your department.
So I'm assuming she means if you see like a C, then a slash and an F.
Yeah. Well, they sent a chord sheet.
Okay.
And one of the chords in it has like a B minor 7 / E.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
So all it's really doing is the composer of the piece is telling you that the chord player, i.e. him, would play the B minor 7.
Yeah.
The bass player, me, would specifically play an E under that. Okay. Yeah. It's meant to have a different effect, because normally if he sees a B minor 7 and I see B minor 7, he's gonna play that chord and I'm gonna play that note B.
B. It'll be B bass plus B minor 7 the chord.
However, as a theory thing, you can pretty much use almost any other note under that, but it just changes what you're hearing. This also goes back to the realm of chord inversions too. But basically all it's saying is chord players, ukulele, guitars, pianos, play the B minor 7. Bass player and the left hand of the piano play an E note. The composer specifically wants that for the relationship between those two sounds.
Yeah, that's honestly it. If you're playing it on an ukulele and if you have a bass player, that bass player will be playing an E. I'll be playing a B minor 7. If you're just playing just ukulele, I think you can get away with just playing just a B minor 7. But if you really want that E bass in there, you can play a B minor 7. Use your ring finger on the C string 4th fret and get this E, but it's not really bass, so it wouldn't really work that way. But if that's what you're looking for, there's a B minor 7. You can have the E there, or if you want that D, if that D note is essential, you can kind of play it like this, because this would be B minor 7. You're opening this F sharp to an E, which would be another way to do it. But it wouldn't really, like maybe that, either this or this. It just depends if you need that F sharp or you need that D more.
Right. and so it kind of depends, but just know that that's what they're asking for. They're asking for the bass, somebody in the bass region, to play the second note.
Someone play that note. Yeah, that's honestly it. It sounds a lot harder than it looks. So definitely looks a lot harder than it is, but it's actually just that. If you just play just the first chord before the slash, you should be just fine.
Yeah.
And I think like if they're like looking for a specific way, like if they're looking at a sheet and it tells them to play a specific chord, like play B minor / whatever. And they really need to know how to play it. I mean, they can ask us, but they can also like look it up online.
Yeah.
There should be like things there that'll tell you what chord options you have. And stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing maybe a low G, it might sound better too. But like, you know, in this case, if you're like a high G ukulele or a reentrant ukulele player, the / chords doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Let's maybe be playing C / F.
Yeah, you could do that.
And then
I mean, there's definitely ways to make that work.
I would say that would be a sus4 more than like a C with an F bass.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what I see it mostly used for, like for guitar, and when they really specifically want that chord, is when they want like a walking bass line or something with the guitar playing it. But it's pretty hard to do that with ukulele too. So I mean, maybe, but just it's not likely. So.
Well, the very nature that the bottom string of a reentrant tuned ukulele is in the higher octave makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Now you could run it down on the C string.
Yeah.
Now what you could do.
That's what I was doing. Like
I mean, what you could do is pick the tonal, the important tonal elements and play it on your E and your A. Actually, technically, you could figure out a way to do it on the top and the top two strings, but that's a lot of work.
That's
man.
a lot. Yeah.
Just get a bass player. Just hire a bass player.
Titty jobs, please. I know one in particular looking for gigs. All right, so next. Sorry. Next question.
George asks,
What's up, George?
Do you think on next week's live lesson you could discuss campanella and how to incorporate it into playing, and also teach a few licks, perhaps? Okay.
We've talked about campanellas in the past before, but just as a fast rundown, it's basically if you're playing like but then you don't want to like more importantly, there it is. That's way better. So ba 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 ba. So if you're gonna play that, instead of playing those 3 notes on the same string, campanella basically you're using other strings to play that to play that line. So it would be that. So instead of going I just play F G A G F instead of F G A G, and that's it. That's honestly like that's it. In its most basic forms. I mean, you can go like fully into it and stuff, but if you're just looking to understand what a campanella is, that's instead of. So if you're doing let's see, just for another example's sake, you can do what would be good. That's a good one. So you can do that's it. I don't do it often, so it's kind of hard to like come up with something. So instead of maybe I can't get it right.
It's the Loco Moco, folks.
Yeah, I know.
He was actually doing this right before we started.
Oh, why can't I do it? Oh my god. That's it.
It's the additional half pound of pork and meat flowing through his bloodstream right now.
It's a crispy pork belly, man.
Oh, man.
That'll get you. That's it. So that's honestly what it is. Because what I'm doing is I'm hitting the D, and you're just you're letting the notes ring out, and not letting them die out when you play the other note. Because what you're doing when you're playing, or even just this, by the time you hit, the E, you usually kind of lift up your finger to play that, and and it stops the previous note. But if you're playing a campanella, you're letting this D ring out, and then playing that F right after the that E rings out. So it goes right. There it is.
So that's basically just hitting the sustain pedal like on a piano.
I I'm getting the Loco Moco, like Loco Moco brain. I'm un poco loco. Loco Moco. Oh, man.
It could also be that 12 ounces of hot sauce that's floating into his brain, too.
See? Why was that so hard? I'm like, un poco loco.
So why would you want to use that instead of the other, like just playing it regularly? Why would you want to use campanella?
It just depends. There's some instances where like the campanella would sound better. It just depends on what you want to do. It's the same thing as like, why would you want to bend it instead of just like play the other note? Instead of going like, you can just go, or you can slide it. It's just a matter of like, what would you prefer?
Well,
better.
there's definitely a difference. Like with the first one when it's all picked, it's definitely a single note line. Because as soon as you play one, you're stopping the one before it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like I said, it's when a piano player hits the sustain pedal and then does a chord in dum bum 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 bum, and you just hear all the. Because I think a way to think about it would be is you want to hear. You're constructing a chord, but you don't want to hit all the notes at the same time.
Yeah.
And by the end of the campanella, what's happening is you actually have played a chord, but you're introducing all the notes individually.
Mr. Music Man, tell us where campanella comes from. The word campanella.
Italian.
Italia, campanella. So what's the origins? What's campanella mean in Italian? What is?
I don't speak Italian enough to know that.
Eat more. Maybe if you eat less Loco Mocos.
might actually know that.
and more spaghetti. maybe you'll know campanella one of these days.
but campanella really does come from. It's used more in classical music, right?
Yeah, it's a classical. Yeah. I know it enough to know
technique.
It's a classical guitar technique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The actual origins of it is well.
I
mean, if I was, I'm not because of that. No, I mean, I'm just to be honest, guys. I don't know the answer to that one. Classical guitar goes back so many hundreds of years that when and how certain techniques were introduced. Yeah. And
BYU doesn't teach you everything.
BYU did not teach me everything. No.
I want to say it too. Like, it's a technique from classical guitar and like violin and stuff where, it's playing on different strings, right? Because you want to sustain the note, and it's like you said, it's like from the piano where you can play multiple notes like right next to each other at the same time.
Right.
Where on string instruments you really can't do that.
So. It's much harder. You can do it, but it's harder than a piano because with a piano all you got to do is just hit the sustain pedal and then just hit the notes in the order you want and they'll just ring out. Yeah. You have to and there's no note that would then be, I guess, unavailable to you. Mm-hmm. But like on a 4-string instrument, there are definitely certain notes where nobody would do this, but you could do like C, D, E, F, G on a piano and just hit the pedal, bum, 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 and they'd all ring out. You can't really do that on an ukulele or even a guitar or bass because we don't have enough strings. Yeah. Two, the relationship between the strings is not in such a place where you could put those 5 notes next to each other.
Mm-hmm. I guess to say you also can't do it naturally, right? You could use like a loop pedal or you could use a pedal effect to play a note and then have it sustain, play the next note and have it sustain.
Oh, absolutely.
But then campanella, it refers to playing
the technique,
all the notes like that.
No, that's referring to the actual technique of trying to mimic that sound or get that sound on an instrument that wouldn't necessarily be able to do that normally.
I'm gonna have to watch this episode again to see like Mike's shirt just progressively get like
sweatier and
sweatier. That's why I wear black to this show.
I wore black to this shirt too, but it's not helping.
Once black. So,
man, that's hot,
hopefully that answers the campanella question. If you really want some cool resources for that, check out the book by John King on it's like classical ukulele. Check that out. There's got tons and tons of campanella in there. Next up.
Why
did I feel that so? Why did I feel that so hard?
It is kind of like talking about that too. you have to think about it a little bit differently than if you just saw the notes laid out, right?
Yeah.
And if it's written out music and then it says like campanella, you kind of have to think around like how to make it so you sustain each note.
Next question.
This is from Lourdes, I think.
Lourdes.
I don't know how.
Madonna's daughter?
Is that her name? Lourdes?
Lourdes.
Yeah, I don't know. Lourdes or Lourdes?
Lourdes. It's a Greek name.
So
that BYU did teach you something.
Yeah. That's actually Madonna's daughter's name.
Yeah. So they said when holding a bar chord, usually they said chord, but I'm thinking strings. Usually the string beneath my pointer finger is not pressing hard enough. Any suggestions? So I'm guessing that they might be meaning that they're not pressing hard enough to have it ring out, like the
it's muting rather than
instead of barring. So any suggestions with that?
As far as the bar, and like we've talked about this as well. With the bar, the closer you are to the front, the better, I guess, or the more you are in the middle, the better. You can go in the front if you want to, but never in the back. And also, you don't actually need a lot of pressure. So if you're saying that like, oh, I don't think I'm putting enough pressure down, you're not supposed to like full press down and stuff. It should just, and we've done this before where like we show you guys that in order to kind of hold your ukulele, you kind of pinch it with your forearms enough so that it kind of goes off balance like this. And to balance it back out, you can use your pointer finger to just kind of play a chord, and that should be enough pressure. See, I'm not even holding it with my thumb. It's just enough, and it rings out. So really, the amount of pressure is not that much. So I don't think the problem is you're not putting enough pressure on there, and the thumb just kind of supports it from the back. You're not pinching this like thumb and pointer to play that bar chord. Okay, this is enough. See, that's ringing out right there. Those strings, that chord is ringing out, whatever you wanna call it, without having to like really full on press. Now, what I'm doing, some tricks to kind of doing this is to make sure that that the pad of your finger and like in the little meaty part right here of your finger is what's holding the strings. If it's the bone like at all, if your bone is kind of holding those strings, it might roll, so that might cause like little problems of kind of muting the strings like this. See, so this is where the first knuckle of the string is, so that's mostly bone. So if that bone is gonna hit it there, it might like mute my strings. You might get this kind of sound. If that's the sound that you're getting, you want to be able to kind of adjust it a little bit, just kind of, even if it's just a small little shimmy, so that it's mostly your the pads and the skin and the muscle that finger is kind of holding it.
Usually the way we tell people how to hold it too, right, is to hold the G string, like hold that note on the G string, and then lay your fingers down.
Lay your fingers,
because then it should lay naturally where it should be.
Very good point, Kai. So pointer finger. The tip, the very, very tippy toe of your pointer finger is going to be playing that G string 2nd fret, in this case B minor 7, and then it's just going to lay down naturally like so. So when you lay it down naturally, because you're using the tip of your fingers, that G string should be just like right there. So if you were to just kind of do that naturally, you should be hearing this G string like this. So what you do is you just kind of adjust. So from here, you place it back down, you adjust, and that should be the B minor chord.
And then do string check, right? Like like make sure that if you're muting a string, you kind of want to know what string you're muting.
Yeah. So what Kahai means by string check is like play each string and check to see if you're if any of those strings are being muted at all. So that if it is muted, you can kind of tell which string you need to kind of readjust and rework on. Okay. What do you think?
That works
as a uke player. So here's the uke.
Hey guys, I have my uke.
So would you? Because I mean, it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, just go do this. But for someone who doesn't play ukulele, like what would you suggest on holding a bar chord?
Well, okay, so stuff I figured out over. First of all, what you were saying is putting your finger down and then rolling it over works great.
Yeah, well, putting it down and just like letting it naturally kind of fall this way.
Yeah. Also, some other things I found is that as long as I make sure my thumb is right behind the finger, if I need to put a little bit of extra squeeze into it, you can do that.
You can, yeah.
You could put your other finger on top of it, although I wouldn't necessarily recommend that every time. A simple reason is that, you know, when you're getting started, that might help to brace that finger.
Yeah,
but eventually, you don't want to rely on that too much, because what will actually happen is the muscle in this finger will get weaker because this one is taking care of the job generally. So for me, it's a combination of a couple of things, because I had trouble. Actually, it helped a lot when I was learning B flat.
Yeah.
So what it was is, if you look, my thumb is still behind my first finger. So wherever that point of contact is to put and it's not even like really putting pressure. It's kind of almost like just setting your hand in a position.
Yeah.
You know, so like when I'm like this, I'm not actually like squeezing it. What I'm actually doing is I'm just setting it like this so it stays steady. If I need a little bit of help, I can put this finger right over here. But really, this should be enough. If you need even a little bit more, the way you talked about doing this so it comes out, if you actually just put a little more pressure over here, it pushes the neck into your finger.
Forward.
Yeah. So that's why even with a lot of things, when I play, I don't really like bear hug it, but I do let the weight of this arm kind of relax on it, because it kind of pushes the strings into my fingers, so I don't have to push down with them. It's almost like I'm bringing the neck and the strings to my hand rather than my hand to the strings, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Another thing too that I see people do is kind of like a lot of people do it right in the middle like this, but you can actually hit it more towards the side, and so that it rests a little bit better, because some of that knuckle might go out of the way, like so.
So you're like rotating your finger.
You're rotating that finger, so instead of kind of hitting it dead on like this, which is what I normally would do. I have sometimes found it easy to kind of roll it to its side.
I would definitely think if you're trying to hit a bar chord, where you have to get some other stuff underneath it, that might help a lot.
I was gonna say that like when I play guitar, that's kind of what I would do. If I couldn't get that F chord for the life of me, like on the guitar, which looks like this for those of you folks who are interested, on a guitar chord looks like this, but I just couldn't get it with my finger straight like that. So I would kind of have my finger roll off to the side like this, and that's how I would bar that that fret, and getting the rest of my fingers down. So if that helps you guys too, that might be a good one.
Something that I think is important to point out is that like that wrist thing again. Like you don't want to bend your wrist where you're
so the wrist is not here either when you're doing that.
We see a lot of people do that, and then that leads to like, besides not being good form, it leads to like stability problems.
It leads to wrist problems.
Well, it leads to carpal tunnel.
Long-term.
Well, there's a good I might have.
Sorry. The small one. Yeah, thank you.
There's one I do when people who are asking. Take your hand like this. I think I might have shown this before. Take your hand like this, and then relax and let it drop forward. Okay? That is your range of motion, front to back. Okay? Anything more than that, and then you're putting strain on it. Same thing with going back, because some people hold the ukulele neck like that. And if this going back is ever worse, because if I relax my hand like here, you see it only goes to maybe like a little less than 45 degrees. If you push any more than this, you'll start to feel pressure right here. That little spot is the famous or infamous carpal tunnel you hear everybody complain about.
Yeah, that's why
you're literally smashing your nerves.
That's why people get carpal tunnel from typing too, because they're
like this all the time,
or like this too. Yeah. They have their
that the opposite way.
Yeah, but
I've seen plenty of people do the keyboarding thing like this, like the desk is too high or the chair is too low. And
that's more like a Razer remote, like.
but
it's a screenshot.
But to kind of fix that and to get a better grip on that bar chord, what I've heard and I've told people is like, make your thumb point towards your headstock on the back of your neck. Don't make it straight.
Yeah.
Like
that helps a lot too.
Can you like show it, or I don't know if like
Aldi's uke. So it's like pointed towards that way. So it's not like you're pointing it up like this. So you're kind of pointing it up that way. When you're doing bar chords, anyway. When you're doing other stuff like G or whatever, it can kind of point up that way. But if you're doing bar chords, I would definitely do it.
That's where I see a lot of people who think they have to do the pinching thing, though. That's like they try to keep it straight, and that's...
No, because if you're doing like this, because if your hand's facing up like this, you're still got your thumb behind the first finger.
Yeah.
So you still have the leverage.
Like
and that's like another thing I've heard like from musicians to try and avoid like carpal tunnel and other RSI is like keep your thumb if you have to keep your thumb behind your pointer finger, but don't like move it beyond that point, because moving it to like your ring finger or your pinky is like that's unnatural, and that's where it's causing tension in your
well if you go like this and then go and then match it up, you notice when you hold your hand up naturally, it only really lines up with your first finger. Maybe you could think of it as your middle finger, but definitely does not line up naturally. You already start to feel
ring finger.
muscle strain with the last finger.
That's how they test meat. Well, like how well done a meat is, right? Like they put it together and then they poke the palm of their hand. Like
I heard like if you like poke your cheek, like that's what it's supposed to feel.
It's the cheek is it's one of them.
Or something like that. I don't know.
It's this muscle here that a lot of people use, like this.
Ooh, this one.
Like that one, and then that one, because it's lessening and lessening the doneness.
But yeah.
So desu.
Like a lot of playing though, it really should feel like as natural, and you really don't want to be putting strain on your hands or your arms. So if you, I don't know, like it's hard because some people are like, I'm trying to do it, and they don't see like how much of a curve they have on the wrist or anything. And it's,
well, I mean, there's a balance there. I mean, learning how to play any instrument is like an athletic endeavor. There's going to be lots of muscles, tendons, ligaments need to stretch, and you need to build up all these like neural pathways to be able to do it. So there is going to be some strain on the way. Whether that is muscular, if you the first time you're going to try and hold a B flat chord, even if you're doing it right, the stabilizer muscles in your hand aren't used to it yet, so they're still going to start shaking. And it's important though to be mindful of when that's just moving away from the normal building up of your whole infrastructure to be able to do it, and then you're just doing it wrong, so it just hurts. And for beginning players, that is really a difficult thing to figure out. Because I guess the equivalent I always do, and sorry Aaron's not here for this, but it would be like if you want to learn how to run a marathon.
Oh, are you about to let them know about how to run a marathon, Mike?
I am.
To school people?
I am. Not really.
Aaron's gonna listen to this. So yeah.
But the idea would be like if the first time you try and do a long distance run, it's gonna hurt. Your muscles are gonna be sore. I mean, you're gonna be sore. You're gonna be tired and anything. But there's a point at which that's natural. Your muscles are like, oh, I haven't done this before. I gotta build up. Like I'm sure if Aaron runs a mile, it's almost like nothing to him. Whereas if any of the three of us ran a mile, we'd probably collapse.
Even. Like, going outside, just in general.
But back when Aaron was young, when he first started trying to do long distance running, I'm sure that mile was tough. There's a big difference between him running to the point where his muscles are going like, okay, I need to like rebuild now, to the point where like you have just pushed me so far that I have no more flexibility, I have no more energy. You're gonna tear a muscle, you're gonna strain a muscle, you're gonna sprain something. And it's the same thing with with the ukulele or the bass or the drums or really anything. There's lots of small muscles that need to be used and trained. And there's gonna be a little bit of uncomfortableness. A little bit of pain, a little bit of, as Ric Flair says, man, you got to pay the price.
A little bit of pain.
You're gonna bleed, sweat, and pay the price.
Okay, next
more
up.
wrestling.
There's a lot of time for just bar chord questions. All right, next up.
Well, that was like the last one. From
Okay, so more Ric Flair.
Let's open it up to last week. It was good. We opened it up to general questions and general discussion. You guys can ask us about anything. So we talked about all that ukulele stuff and whatever. But you guys can ask us any questions now, and it can be about ukulele, can be about anything. So we want to put the last 15 minutes in your hands.
Kevin, this isn't a question, but Kevin just said that campanella is little bell. So
little bell.
That's where it comes from.
Okay.
Just to let you know.
Thank you. Who's that?
Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. I'll round of applause for Kevin.
That's
important, actually.
You increased my Italian vocabulary.
You know more than BYU does.
So Kevin actually also brought up a good point where he said lower end ukes without a setup tend to have a high nut and can make it difficult to bar on the first fret. Yes. Or the first few frets. Yeah. So while that's...
Keep that, you can keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. And kind of so if they want to see if maybe it's their ukulele, they could just try to go down to the 5th fret maybe or 7th fret.
See if it works there. Yeah, the only reason why we don't usually go down that road and stuff is we don't want to kind of give people more the
idea that
it's just my uke or it's the nut of my. But you're absolutely correct. You have very legitimate a legitimate point and stuff. But it's tough because I think we used to do all that stuff it might be this, might be that. They're like, it is that. It's not just me not practicing.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Here's a certain thing to remember. 20 years ago, that would have been far more true.
Yeah.
If you picked up, was Call around 20 years ago?
Not 20, no.
No. Okay, so whatever was around 20 years ago, because I don't even remember whether that was.
Let's just say
1999. Duke Kahanamoku ukuleles.
They were Prelude in 99.
Were they are?
Yeah, Preludes, Helos were around.
Okay, Helos.
What was around? In
Flukes were around in 99.
Yeah, Flukes were around in 99.
But I think it'd be fair to say that quality control and quality setup
Ukes has gone a long way.
Of the Ukes from that era was a lot worse than today. I think a lot of the companies, Kala, Ohana, any of the Chinese mass producer ukuleles, they're coming out much better set up.
And it's, even if it still needs, because I know people like Mim and Hawaii Music Supply will set it up before they ship it off and stuff. But for the most part, it's
minor.
It's it's minor. It's minor setups things. And stuff. And it's not going to be the nut is so high that it's going to cause.
And of course, on the other hand, not to say that can't be the thing.
Yeah.
You could always get the lemon.
Yeah.
That's true. Which needs a bigger setup. But your chances are much better of getting a good setup.
Yeah, and I think too, good technique will always kind of overcome a bad setup. Yeah. So it can be a bad instrument, and somebody who knows how to play can still play a bar chord or something. They just might say it's a little harder. Because
I was playing an ukulele recently from this other ukulele friend that I had. And we were friends. No, we're still friends. So I played my.
But
friends.
After I played, I don't want to say
who, and I don't want to say what that brand is, just because I don't want to talk bad about stuff. But it was not built well. I should say, Kai. You were there. It was because he even knew that it was, because he played my ukulele, and it's how come it just doesn't feel like this? So the setup was bad, and so, but you could, he could still play it. Things could still come. He still makes beautiful music out of that thing, even though it was kind of weird. It was too high. It was there was some buzzes, and it was hard to kind of press the strings down. But
you, and Aaron were all there, and he let us see his ukulele and stuff, and he was saying oh yeah. I play this one, but I don't really like it. And And then even when we were looking at it, I remember Aaron testing the balance and being why is this so off balance? And I think all of us though were amazed at you mean you play this on a regular basis? You play this professionally? You use this? Because this is it's not a go-to ukulele. It's not a ukulele where you'd be oh man, I just love picking it up and playing.
And like, and I would consider that to be one of those rare lemons that you're talking about, because that is a so what's the word I'm saying, a brand that that has notoriously been okay, like some famous people have used that brand, in their recordings, and it's like, it sounds awesome. It sounds like a little bell.
I think, I think even he said, like, I don't know why it's like this one.
Yeah. So there are some, but it's not entirely that. You can still do bar chords, you can still do all that.
Let me ask you a question without being super specific about it. Was this person's ukulele a mass produced or hand built one?
Hand built.
Hand built.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the thing to also remember is that even with hand builders, as well as factory, because the thing is, I mean, I do give a lot of credit to those companies are using CNCing, because it does make the ukuleles incredibly consistent.
Yeah,
but the problem becomes is if the tolerances in the machines aren't maintained. That's one of the things. If you have a CNC machine, you got to constantly maintain it to make sure all the blades and the whirls and all that stuff like that are right, right regulated. Otherwise, they're not going to cut at like 1/100th of an inch. Because hand builders are a completely different story.
Well, I laugh because there is a brand that you guys sell that use like a lot of CNC machine, and it's still terrible. Like, I don't want to say what that brand is or whatever. I don't want to ruin anyone's day. But like, I have one of those. No, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
It's just like,
and
what is happening? I thought you were using CNC machines.
Well, and here's the thing.
No.
It's
called Brand X.
If you're talking about the brand, I think you're talking
Mr.
about.
X makes Brand X.
If you're talking about that brand.
Yeah, brand I'm a big fan of.
Number one, it's also possible that maybe the machines aren't maintained as well as they could be. It's possible that just a bug gets into the programming system.
On all the ukes. Sorry.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Don't worry, folks at home. It's probably not a uke that you have. It's more of a targeted, targeted uke. So it's not like one of the big K brands or anything like that. Don't worry. It's not even a Kala or Lani Kai or whatever. It's
So I think the thing to remember is that, a lemon or a substandard.
It's a lemon tree, this place. I feel terrible.
One of those can slip out at any time.
Yes.
That can happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's, a fault of the builder, a fault of the machine producing the parts. That there could be tons of reasons why that person's particular ukulele didn't come out the way it should. But here's the thing. Yeah. If you have a good luthier in your town, wherever you happen to be, okay, they're not going to be able to make an absolute junk ook into like this thing. On the other hand, though, they if you have a competent luthier near you, they should be able to level the frets, make sure the fingerboard is true, make sure the top isn't warped, make sure
the frets,
exactly, all that stuff like that, that really contributes to the ease of being able to do any of these things. I mean, I rotate between two different bass guitars generally for my gigs. Both of them are really nice high-end. One's an American Fender, and the other one's a custom-built called a Stambar. And even between that, after a certain amount of times, I have to get the frets addressed on those instruments. I do. I have to get the necks. I have to get the necks redone. I have to get it set up. I got to put new strings on. I got to do all these things to make sure that the instrument's playing at its absolute best.
Right. You sent in your Cornelius to get maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's
it's
totally normal.
It's totally
I mean, no matter how good the instrument is out of the factory,
dressing frets and stuff like that, but just like little minor things.
Well, eventually, I mean, it'll take a lot longer for you because you play nylon strings,
and I have.
But your steel string guitars, You play them long enough, you will definitely feel
you know, I was gonna say because of the ebony fretboard too, so it's not like it's gonna wear and tear that much because ebony is super duper hard, and so it's not gonna need that much adjusting in that sense. But we've gone like 20 minutes on this one, like or 30 minutes on this one. You know, this one question we gotta. Is there 15, any other questions? Okay. Because we extended it even more because we were still talking about the bar question.
I think no.
Okay. Just making sure so that we don't have any other questions. Right,
and just to take it back to the original question, we're just saying that like even if a ukulele doesn't have the greatest setup or it doesn't, it's not that great. Yeah. Like still good technique. You want to aim for
wins
good
over.
Technique.
Yeah.
And then like too for people who are saying like who might feel discouraged by that, like might be like, oh, you mean like it's not my ukulele and it is me. Yeah. Like don't feel discouraged. Yeah, a bar chords are generally something that takes time to get. So you just kind of have to work at it.
So same thing with the with the exercise of the C and that one in in the 7th fret and stuff like that. You know that will take a little bit of time. If you have to go 5th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret to get it, that's how it's gonna be. You know, like if you can't just jump into it expecting it to kind of be perfect like the first time every time. You know, so. Some techniques, some things will take a little bit of time for you to kind of get right.
And when we teach how to play bar chords, we try to put in as much detail as we can, in as much important detail as we can. But there's like you were saying earlier, Mike, right? There's small muscles in your hand that you use that you really don't think about, or you don't even you're starting.
You have to try and use them.
Yeah. And it's only when you start to like use them and you start to figure them out that those kinds of things start to become easier. And it's not just like one day it'll be like, oh,
and they have to be built up. That's the one thing to know. Your stabilizer muscles have to be built up like any other muscle. You know, so it's the same kind of thing. When you do a push up and you get that weird shake, those are the stabilizer muscles in your arm going like, wow, that's a lot of pressure that I'm not used to.
Yeah, well, you haven't done this before.
Yeah. I did want to throw one thought for the end. What Kahai just said, and this is gonna sound somewhat harsh, but sorry.
Ooh, okay. Coming from a teacher, right?
Yeah, this is my teacher mentality coming in.
All right.
If you find that you have issues with, and this is kind of backing up what he says, if you find that you have issues with your instrument and stuff like that, you got to realize that 95% of the time, it is you. Okay?
Ouch, man.
It is. Ouch. Now, here's the thing. There's a good and a bad side to this. Okay. The bad side will feel like, oh, so it's just me that's the problem. In a way, yeah, because it means that you haven't figured out the solutions to them yet. You haven't heard the right information. You haven't done the study in the right place to figure out what will make it work for you. The good part about that is you also need to realize, and it's an amazingly awesome feeling to realize that when you achieve something, it's not because you bought a better ukulele.
Yeah.
It's not that you bought a different string or a new capo or this or that. You got to realize that 95% of everything you ever achieve in music is you. It's on your shoulders. This guy could play any ukulele. Yeah, this one. He could play any ukulele and still do all of his amazing stuff.
Not all.
Because he put in the time. He worked his butt off.
Yeah, without joking aside, there's really that that quote of like any any known painter, any like master painter can create a masterpiece with any paintbrush. You know, like you can give him some twigs and stuff, he'll make something out of it. So it's just really knowing and having all that years of experience to kind of know what you're doing with with the art. And I would look at it more as an excited feeling. If there's something that you haven't figured out yet, it just tells you, it just shows you that there's so much more things, for you to kind of learn. Because once you get that, then what's the next thing that what's the next wall that you're gonna hit? And it's gonna keep feeling good, breaking down those walls.
And I think one thing that we've probably said on this show a bunch of times, I've said it, is that this music there's no ending to this journey. Whatever you have figured out, congratulations. Yeah. There is there's the rest of your life to go. Yeah. Every good musician I've ever met I've never heard one of them get to the point where they say like, yep, I'm good.
Good.
I don't need to learn anything else. No, because we were talking about this last night.
Yeah.
He was playing last year he was playing in a jazz thing with me. Because he hadn't really done jazz. He's like, I'm excited to learn this. Mm-hmm. This is stuff I know I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have these tools to work with. Mm-hmm. Bam. You know, oh, wait, since we haven't said, well, he's right back there. But not fake, but Jake.
I know, we haven't mentioned him once on this show.
You know, Jake is another guy who's, every time I run into that dude, he is thinking about something new.
Yeah.
He's thinking about something new, like, oh, what about this? What about that? You know? And we've both known him long enough where it's like, I remember when he was like trying to get into jazz chords and stuff like that. And now he's got those things locked on. But what does that mean? It means, cool, I have this. Yeah. It's time for the next thing.
I think the general saying, right, is like nothing in life worth like getting is easy.
Absolutely.
Like you gotta work at it.
Yeah.
And it's hard for the ukulele too, because like that's kind of what it's touted as, is like an easy,
so easy you can do. Yeah, and
and
that's honestly one of the things that we're dealing with right now, that like it's so, you know, like you said, so it's marketed as like, oh, it's this easy thing, like, you know, you can play this song with these chords and stuff, and a lot of people are like making things easy so that they can, like, you know, get the shortcut way of kind of playing this. Like, for example, it's like if we're, you know, I think I've given this example before. Like, if you guys want to learn how to play is that Waiting in Vain by Bob Marley, that song's gonna be in G sharp. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to learn how to play that song, and you want to learn it that way with the, you know, I'm gonna show you that original version with the picking and whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like, if someone comes up like, oh no, you just play with C and F or whatever, C and D minor, it'll be all good. And it's like, that's not that song, you know. Like, it's something, you know, you're gonna go to Bob Marley, let's jam, you know, let's jam Waiting in Vain, you know.
I think one of the things with the ukulele is interesting compared to a lot of other instruments. The learning curve is all on the back end.
Yeah.
You know, like the learning curve on ukulele is like, and then once you get to like, you know, that, and then it does that.
It's like,
whereas most instruments just starts heading up.
Yeah.
Like if you take piano for the first time, man, the first couple lessons you just suck.
Or like, I feel like,
you know,
a lot of like woodwind or brass instruments, right? You gotta
you go through weeks before you make anything sounding decent.
Yeah.
Like, I was playing my clarinet, like in my first week of playing, it's nothing but squeak.
just a solid note, right?
Yeah.
Like just that's all you want.
Yeah.
But with ukulele, it's like, just hold, like, you don't have to hold anything.
Here's a C.
Just yeah. Oh,
one
you got
finger
it.
C.
Yeah,
there you go.
You got it. So like, I think and it usually is like people learn a bunch of chords or they learn stuff, then they hit their first bar chord and they're like, why is this all of a sudden
it's really interesting because, you know, like at the store that I work at, I usually tell people, hey, you know, if you just want to get into it as at the beginning, 4 chords and you're good for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is really true. The thing is that you can go for quite a while with just those 4 chords before you hit anything difficult. But then once it does, shoots through the roof.
I think too, we're also not harping on like people who want to play easy songs or play 4 chords or play like you said, like Waiting in Vain in G instead, right?
Yeah.
It's like fine, but like we're just like letting you know that if you hit a roadblock, that's the reason why. Is because it's music in general is hard, and like ukulele, it starts off easy, but then it might get harder for you. It probably
have to learn music in order to kind of move on to, you know,
to get good at anything,
the next level. And that's why we advertise it as that, you know, like you come to Ukulele Underground to take your you know, you sign up for UU Plus to take your ukulele playing to the next level, because with regular Ukulele Underground you can learn all those 4 songs, like, you know, 4 chords or whatever. You can learn all those songs, you can totally play all that. But you signing up for UU Plus, all of you live, you know, like watchers right now, you're signing up for UU Plus so that you can take this playing to the next level. And that means like understanding, learning, and appreciating music and what makes and builds music and where music comes from and what makes it. the exciting part. Like for me, I've been, I've been in this musical journey, kind of learning stuff for over like 30 years, and I'm still finding out a lot of new stuff, and I'm still learning. Like Mike said, last year I learned a lot of new things, and I'm excited to be in this journey with you folks. Okay, so with that said, I think we gotta call it a day. We are 6 minutes over, but I will see you folks next time. Thank you so much, Magic Mike, for coming back. Yeah, Mike's been busy. You've been working.
I've been busy.
Yeah, we don't want to get too specific. We don't want you guys stalking Mike or anything at his new job. But yeah, he got a new job, and you've been kind of busy, right?
I have been. It's been quite a ride.
Anything else you've been up to? You want to tell the audience any performances? Summertime.
The only one coming up is next week. I'll be in the Big Island playing a concert. So if you live on the Big Island, Hapuna Beach Prince on the 22nd. Hawaii Songwriters Festival finale concert. It's going to be featuring Kenny Loggins as the headliner and a bunch of other amazing songwriters.
You're friends with Kenny, now? Like you guys are like buddies and stuff.
Is that still like? Can people get tickets? Is that
yep?
Should that
still tickets are still open for sale.
So yeah.
So awesome. Kenny's like your buddy.
He's
and
cool.
Stuff. Like that's cool. Are we buddies still?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. As long as we're still buddies.
Like Kenny is his buddy, like how Keena Granis is your buddy.
Yeah.
Right? Close personal friend.
I'd rather be friends with Keena.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Kenny's pretty cool. Sorry, Keena. Kenny's pretty cool.
For some reason, the video turned off. I don't know why. They're both cool. How about that? I love both of them. I love everyone. Nice backtrack.
Have a great one, guys. We'll see you folks next time. Stick around for one-on-one coaching after this. And tomorrow we'll see you folks for Aloha Friday Live Jam or the Aldrine and Kahai show. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a great one. Aloha.